So, Key Sports TV just posted up Drake doing Padwork drill, and it's a good workout. I can see he's getting a good workout. Padwork drills are not dances. It's not about achieving what you're doing. It's more about understanding how to throw certain punches and how to counter certain punches and how to use your defense. Okay. I'm not going to say much about Drake's Padwork drill except to say you guys can leave your comments in the comment section below or in the chat. But I'll say this much. Homie need to tuck his chin. His chin all protruding forward and you're looking at the guy like he's looking for approval or something. Did you? You better tuck your chin. Okay. Everything has a reason for why it is done. It's not something pretty. Everybody take it up. Now, one thing I do like about human beings is they like to be tested and they like to see if they could achieve, getting those combinations in and the moves in. But it ain't no dance, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Boxing is fighting. There's stuff coming back at you. And you have to be in the right positioning to be able to do it. It's not just trying, I saw Kevin Hart doing this stuff too. These guys, man, I know he's a comedian, but you're not doing those combinations. You're not doing that drill as a dance to say you did it. There's a significance to it, and it's something you should be able to use in sparring. It's something you should be able to use in the ring. And it's about perfecting it. And you don't have to be continuous. It doesn't have to be continuous like that. But why it's continuous like that is because they want to go from the defense to the offensive transition. So that's as much as I'm going to say. Homie, you need to tuck your chin, Drake. And it's a long story, but whatever. I'm not going to go in on him. All right. I would prefer if Drake kept his hands up. That Philly shell shit, that's not for Drake. He too slow. He gonna get hurt. Boxers don't seem to, people who are casuals. Oh, there's a big disconnect between casuals and boxing. First of all, he shouldn't even be doing that drill. You know what he should be doing? Hands up, motherfucker. Your hands should be up at all times. At all times. You too slow to be doing that drill. I don't do that drill. And that's what Lion Killer podcast was talking about with Nate Campbell. They were saying everybody doing this drill. Do they even know what they're doing? It's a fad. You see these young boxers trying to be in the Philly shell. Ninja, some of y'all shouldn't be doing the shell. Period. That's not a defense for you. You need to keep your hands up. That's what you motherfuckers need to do. Because you won't get countered over that shell. Hard. Then your timing's off. You have to have the timing to do that shit. It's not, listen, people feel, Floyd Mayweather's out there doing this and that, so I could do it too. No, Ninja, it ain't like that. Not every style's for every person. And you can have an equivalent with the shell just by keeping your lead hand up. Hands up. Lead hand and your power hand up. Keep them up. And you can still roll punches and all of that, but you keep your hands up, Ninja. Okay? That's the best position for especially beginners and starters. And people who are novices, they never set their foot down in a pro ring. In the amateurs, you keep your hands up. Floyd used to keep his hands up in the amateurs. You see him fighting, he's staying hands up. His hands by his chin or it's up just above on his face. And he's peeking through the peekaboo guard. Keep your hands up. All right, that's it for Drake. Because a lot of people do a lot of fads and This fad nonsense need to, people need to understand. You're a beginner, hands up. I won't see you doing no shell and all that bullshit. You can do that later. All right. Let's talk about, and Floyd's father was trained by an old school trainer, you know. So, and Floyd learned that since he was a baby. So y'all need to keep your hands up until you can do that. And Teofimo Lopez, Ninja, you need to put your hands up. That's why you get counted over your shoulder. Keep your hands up. You don't just do the shell straight through a fight. Floyd don't do the shell straight through a fight. Floyd isn't shelled up all the time. And Teofimo Lopez doesn't seem to understand that. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. Gervonta Davis understands the game. He got the combo. He got the combo right. Devin Haney understands it a little bit. Devin Haney got the combo good enough too. And Shakur Stevenson, that motherfucker's a fine piece of work. He understands the game very well. All right, so I'm just gonna say that about Drake. But it's good to see people inspired to do boxing. I know Drake and a whole bunch of other celebrities. They actually train in the gym and they do their little boxing workouts and stuff. All right, it's been so for a while. Rosie Perez could throw some hands too. People don't know that. So they guys on the D-Lo, they doing their things. And LL Cool J, he could throw some hands. All right. But let's talk about Mayweather hate. I was going through group after group on Facebook, just watching what people saying. And one of the worst things that ever happened in boxing was the rise of the Pactards. I'm not even going to say the rise of the Flomos, even though the Flomos give some pretty inaccurate information. And they just like everything Floyd says is gold. And they worship the dude. And it's really weird too. But I've never seen anything like it. I mean, these guys are so religious to Pacquiao. Anything he says, any excuse he makes, they build a whole sanctuary behind him. And they're so caustic. They attack every single boxer that might have beaten Pacquiao. I just don't get it. I look in the groups and they're attacking Ugas. What did Ugas ever do? He was respectful and everything. And they show him with his eyes swelled up. And Ugas couldn't even beat an old Pacquiao and just like trouncing the dude. And then they go in on Floyd all the time because Floyd is the number one enemy, right? Because since Floyd said, and get me some fried rice. You remember Floyd went in on Pacquiao? The Pactards just went nuts. And since then, they've been attacking Floyd. They go into every single group and they spread lies about him and they try to tear down his legacy and his record. And they actively do that from group to group to group. And for those of you who know, a Pactard reported me and so I'm right now off of Facebook. Right? And they're very vindictive. I remember they attacked my channel as well. Shout out to Troy Ingram, man. What's up, bro? And I find them the least knowledgeable about boxing. And they're really hurting the sport but they exist. But they really hurt the sport because they don't know nothing about boxing. Like nothing. They just know about Pacquiao. And their allegiances to Pacquiao. And they don't really bring facts. They bring propaganda. And to me, it's the worst thing that ever happened to the sport because before that, at least it was common decency. People used to, evaluate fighters, whatever. But this thing is like a plague. I remember when they came on YouTube. And I mean, I'd never seen anything like it. I know they're trying to promote the fight, but I mean, come on. You know nothing about boxing, and yet you're so antagonistic. And because of the Pactards, we had all these people who were jealous and envious of Floyd. They started riding that wave. And you started seeing more and more support for people who just would put this hate on Floyd. Right? And then we had the propaganda campaign against him with the wife beating thing, which he's not even married to any of those women. He never was. So how could he be a wife beater? But whatever. And just a lot of attacks on the guy. Now, he was a controversial guy, and sometimes he say some stupid stuff. I'm not gonna lie to you. But by and large, from what I see as a person, he's a decent person. you know. But the attacks, the relentless attack, especially after Floyd beat Pacquiao, the relentless attacks, and the talk about him running, and just all the ignorant ass rubbish you could ever hear. The most dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life that just takes boxing down. You know, the beautiful sport that I know. You know, I heard these stupid people say he's running. That's the first thing I ever heard. Now I know that term has been used in boxing over time, certain places, particularly on HBO. I've heard it and hear boxers say, "Oh, he was running from me." And but there's no such thing as running in the ring. I don't even care if the guy's actually running. Go watch Roberto Duran versus Lou Bizarro. And you want to see running? Lou Bizarro was literally running in the ring from Roberto Duran. Guess what? Guess what? Duran caught up with him, knocked his ass out. Okay? Shout out to Troy again. Troy said, I agree, people hate Floyd, have double standards against him. Yes, yes. And I'm talking about these packtards, their vengeance and the way they move gave ammunition and fuel to some people in the industry who do not like Floyd. I can tell you right now, Thomas Hauser doesn't like Floyd. Larry Merchant don't like Floyd. And Jim Lampley had a campaign. He had the thing called the Fight Game, where they literally put out a hit campaign on the guy just before he faced Pacquiao. And I didn't understand why Jim Lampley, who has been known to beat up women and has been on a case where he beat up women, would, with the hypocrisy that he has, go after Floyd just because he's about to fight Pacquiao. You know, trying to break the dude for what? Why are you trying to make sure that people hate this guy so much? Okay? And the lies that have been circulated about this guy, I don't understand. And they make it sound time and time again as if this dude hasn't done extraordinary stuff that nobody's ever done. I never quite understood it. But I can tell you that the Packtards really help to lead the charge when it comes to that. And that's why a lot of people hate the Packtards. Like they're scourge, they're a plague. The Flomos, don't get me wrong, I met some Flomos. And one Flomo, he tried to go after me and he tried to destroy my reputation and destroy everything that I was about. So I've seen some Flomos. And yes, Flomos don't have accurate information either. So I've seen what a Flomo looked like. But the Flomos rose as a result of the Packtards. They were a backlash. In fact, if you watch on YouTube, we have the sort of the black community of boxing that kind of rose up in response to the Packtards because they realized what was going on and how their channels were being attacked, because anybody who was saying anything positive about Floyd Mayweather at a certain point in time, if you guys remember, were brutally attacked by these Packtards and called Flomos. Anybody. And to this day, some people are afraid to say anything positive about Floyd because politically, the industry itself is trying to erase him from existence if possible. And that was emboldened by the Packtards. Okay? And the Packtards are basically Pinoys or Filipino guys who, hold on a second, I'm being interrupted. Yeah, shout out to Troy Ingram. Don't forget to smash the like button. Show me some love, Troy. Troy was I loved Troy's programs when Troy used to have programs up. Shout out to Troy, though. Hope you start back. But I want to talk about this because this really annoys me. Okay. So, the Packtards, they started this campaign against Mayweather. They tried to make his record seem like it don't exist. Yes, and the industry is trying to do it too. What they're trying to do is replace Floyd with the Four Kings. So they're shoving the Four Kings down our throat. Guys who have been around, they had their time, they had their place. But I say it again, I'm going to say it again, Floyd would whoop all their asses. And I have no reservations about it. Why? Because it's just a fact. that boxing as a sport evolves. And he's just a better boxer than all those guys. And they know it. And we all know it. But they're playing politics. Okay? Because if tomorrow somehow we could wind back time and Floyd is supposed to face Sugar Ray Leonard, all of a sudden everybody's going to be kind of excited about it, but then they're going to say, well, why did Floyd pick Sugar Ray Leonard? He know he could beat him. You know what I'm saying? And they're going to start to make excuses. Troy Ingram says Duran's resume is overrated. In many ways, it is overrated, especially at lightweight. He faced, I'd say at lightweight, he faced 5 good fighters. Really good fighters at lightweight. Before lightweight, he faced 2 really good fighters. One was a little too small for him. Okay? As his lightweight resume, and controversially won against one of them. We're talking about the Hall of Famer Ken Buchanan. Oh, yeah, he's a great fighter. Duran's a great fighter. Don't get me wrong. But, they overhyped Duran. They say he's the greatest lightweight ever. I argue Benny Leonard is a better lightweight. Pernell Whitaker was a better lightweight. At lightweight, they did better work. But it's up to opinion. It's different people's opinion. I'm not hating on Duran. If they say he's the greatest, I could see why. Because he went on from lightweight and did some remarkable things. Went all the way up to middleweight. So I understand. But back to what I was saying. I was saying that, this sort of industrial move that they're trying to make, let me say this so people understand. I've always been consistent with what I'm saying. Do I think that some of the fighters today would beat Floyd's ass? Absolutely. Well, some of them could possibly do it. We're talking about Terrence Crawford. I'm not saying he would. I'm just saying, as you look at Terrence Crawford, he's a switch hitter, plasticity and all of that. You look at what the next generation brings. There's a reason why the newer generations beat off the older generations. It's not just age. It's not just age. It's not just that the older generations have gotten old. It's that the newer generations bring something new to the table. Terry Norris tore into Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard going into the Terry Norris fight was the favorite. It was a 4-1 favorite or something like that. And Terry Norris destroyed him. Because Terry Norris brought something else to the table. He had a different kind of stance. He was sharper. Yeah, Leonard was quick. He was fast and all of that. But Terry Norris brought something else to the table. He used to attack off of angles. Not coming straight in on you. You know what I'm saying? And these are some of the things. I'm not saying Leonard didn't attack on angles either, but I'm just saying. So when Leonard tried to do his usual little, circling of the ring, pivoting of the ring, Terry Norris cut off that angle on him, cut down the ring, and then attack him off an angle like Errol Spence do. And he coming off his jab, coming inside on you. See what I'm saying? So that's something that Leonard, he's not like he didn't know about it, but it's just that it's different how the newer fighters approached it. And I want to show how I actually have a video with Saul Mambe and fighters from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, which he faced. And you see the different styles. Some people try to critique the style and try to defend Duran and all kinds of bullshit. And I just laugh. I just laugh at those guys because at the end of the day, these guys don't want to acknowledge that boxing has moved on from their nostalgia. That boxers have actually improved over time. And I'm not the first person to say this. I remember watching a black and white, right? A black and white documentary on the great Joe Gans and on Philadelphia Jack O'Brien facing the heavyweight champ. I think it was Tommy Burns or whoever it was. And the guy in his synopsis says the same thing. He says, there are a lot of people who would not agree with me, but a lot of people feel that the older fighters were better fighters than today. But I look at a guy like Floyd Patterson. He's talking about Floyd Patterson, because Floyd Patterson was the champion at the time. And you look at his left hook and the way how he moves and everything, so athletic and everything. And he's saying that's an improvement from Rocky Marciano and so on and so on. And he was kept on going about how good athletes they are, how good boxing is, how it has changed. and he believes that boxing is only getting better. And to be truthful, I believe the same thing. I think boxing constantly is getting better. I think it's now opening its arms to a wider community, so that people in mixed martial arts, people who are just normal everyday people, YouTubers and business people and TikTok people, it's embracing a lot of people now. The sport's embracing more people, and more people are allowed to box in it, even though the premier thing is the pro ranks and the elite ranks. And so the more people box and the more people get involved, to me, is the more people are going to dial into the big fights. It's just common sense. It just follows that way, right? So I don't understand why they talk about these YouTubers fighting each other, or TikTok versus Twitch, or MMA fighters doing crossover with boxing, how that could affect boxing and be negative. I just can't understand it. Because if they're doing boxing, they're not doing MMA, they're doing boxing. They're not doing hopscotch. They're not doing sprinting. They're not doing American football. They're doing boxing. And if people are doing boxing and people are coming to see boxing, boxing at the forefront. And those people, I was listening to Rosie, and she was saying how, she's afraid they will not value the actual boxing fights when they see the actual box. What are you talking about? If I'm boxing and I start seeing pro boxing, I'm going to want to aspire towards doing something like that, being a pro boxer. So the more I get involved in boxing, the more I respect it. And the more I respect it is the more I want to see what the highest level of boxing is. Not just who sells the most pay-per-view or who has the biggest event. It absolutely, Troy, it helps boxing 100%. And the more we talk boxing, the more channels and more people like myself and you talk boxing, is the more boxing gets prominent and it gets a place out there. Right? And so if we're going to be fair, it's about educating people on boxing. And every time a commentator goes onto the television to speak, he needs to start using boxing terms. He needs to start, and if he has to explain them, fine. I remember everybody knows what a pull counter is. Why? Because of Floyd Mayweather. Everybody knows what a Philly shell is because of Floyd Mayweather, right? Everybody knows what a check hook is because of Floyd Mayweather. And the commentators actually spoke about it. And Floyd first brought it up, and then commentators started saying, there's a check hook, there's a pull counter. Everybody knows what a jab is because they talk about him being on his jab. Yeah, he needs to use the jab more because commentators talk about it. Now we need the commentators to talk more about what the fighters are actually doing in the ring, how they're setting up their shots, what is their strategy, what is their game plan, right? Show people so they can see it in real time, because boxers see stuff. That's why they say the real experts should really be boxers that commentate, and not some clueless bloke like Jim Lampley or Larry Merchant. Larry Merchant like quoting poetry. I'm not disrespecting nobody, but I'm just saying he put in his works, he put in his numbers, but I'm just saying I can't do his job. But I'm just saying that he's a Hall of Famer. Jim Lampley's a Hall of Famer. Good for them. They were fortunate. But they brought the sport down to some degree. They dumbed down the audience. That's why we can have pactards now talking about people running. They can say stupid things like, he's the king of running, and he and Rigondeaux would be a running match. It'd be boring. Floyd's fights are boring. Who the fuck would say stupid stuff like that? Sorry about the F-bomb. Who the hell would say stupid stuff like that? How the hell is Floyd's fights boring if you're buying his fights on pay-per-view? Why does he have record pay-per-views if his fights are boring? If you're coming to see him get knocked out, there's no way his fight is being boring, because you want to see if he's going to get knocked out. So you're always anxious and excited when a fighter actually puts up a fight with him and it looks like he might get knocked out. So it can never be boring. What happened is you're disappointed every time he beats the fighter that you thought he was not going to beat. That's what you mad about. You mad about that. Troy Ingram says, yeah, they don't know about feints, footwork, and technical skills. No. The Pactards don't know nothing about that. Okay? Pactards. And then we got some haters up in there, and we got different variations of haters. Some that misrepresent information, tell lies, and so on. And again, I have nothing against Pacquiao. I have nothing against the Filipino people, right? In fact, I just went to a Filipino group. I was just looking at what was going on in that group. I wasn't saying nothing because I can't. But in that Filipino group, I see Filipinos who are arguing with other Filipinos about Floyd, right? And those Filipinos who are arguing are generally Filipinos who actually box or are people who have family that box, right? So you can tell that these people are knowledgeable, and you can tell the other people, they're not knowledgeable. They've never been in the ring. I see some post up videos of them street fighting, and Jesus Christ, it's just the worst. I mean, just with the little knowledge, or if you have any sort of small amount of martial arts background, them guys done. You can toast them within seconds, right? You can toast if you have a martial arts background. You understand what I'm saying? Because I was training in close fighting, right? So I'm supposed to be able to neutralize a guy very quickly, so that I can get out of there or whatever, right? I was trained to do that. But with respect to so I don't know what street fighting is. For some people, street fighting is throwing blows and stuff. It never comes to that with me. Okay, I'm neutralizing you. I'm taking you out, neutralizing you, and then whatever else happens after that, that's up for grabs. Because I don't have time for that. If a guy's armed, I have to disarm him, and the only way if he's within range for me to disarm him, I'm taking him out, right? So that's how I learned. That's what martial arts background I came from. Well, most boxing fans really don't know boxing. They just love the toe-to-toe fighting, which is part of boxing, but not everything about boxing. I agree with you, brother. But the thing about it is, you can go toe-to-toe. I have no problem with you going to toe-to-toe. Okay? But there is a time and place where you go toe-to-toe. There's a time and place, again, where you use lateral movement, you use in and out movement. And the thing about it is, they talk about toe-to-toe. Manny Pacquiao don't go toe-to-toe. Manny Pacquiao don't go toe-to-toe. Manny Pacquiao's the same kind of fighter like Floyd, except Pacquiao has to get to mid-range to do his attacks. Pacquiao never stand in front of you and trade blows. So I never understood. I never understood it. Pacquiao run just like Floyd. It's just that he has to stay closer to his opponent because he has a shorter reach. All right, Floyd has a longer reach, so he can, and Floyd doesn't move all around the ring like that either. Floyd is a very efficient mover. He don't move unnecessarily. He's going to try. He's always in a position to make you miss, make you pay, right? That's the thing with Floyd. Otherwise, how's he going to counterpunch you, right? He's a counterpuncher. Pacquiao is the same thing. Pacquiao is a counterpuncher. I don't even understand why we even hate on Pacquiao or Floyd, because both of them do exactly the same things. Their style of fighting is exactly the same way, except Pacquiao take more damage. He take more hits because he has to take more risk because he's so short, right? He's a little guy, and he has to deal with guys with longer reach and longer height, so he's going to have to take more risk. So he gets hit more. But other than that, Pacquiao and Floyd, they're about the same thing. Yeah, Floyd stay in the pocket, of course. Most of the time he stay in the pocket, even against Pacquiao. Floyd's an in and out fighter just like Pacquiao. He's an ambush fighter just like Pacquiao. You think Pacquiao gonna stand in front of you and take a shot after you hit him? No, he don't do that. Every time Pacquiao hits you, he pivot out the way. He pivot weak side so he can hit you and you can't hit him. All right? He sometimes take punishment because you might be quicker on the draw, or you might anticipate him, or if you're a really good counter puncher like Ugas or Floyd or Marquez, well, it's an in and out tactical battle. Because if you look at Pacquiao versus Floyd, that battle was, these guys was fighting like if they was featherweights. They were so freaking fast, both of them. And they're going in and out of each other, in and out, really, really fast. And then Pacquiao started walking down Floyd because Floyd had tagged him up enough. And then Floyd started going on the back foot. And then Pacquiao draw into him and he just check hook him, or, he would, set him up to counter him, And Floyd would get hit by Pacquiao too, because Pacquiao, sometimes he got a real clever way of, cutting the distance, right? And Floyd realized he couldn't trade with Pacquiao at mid-range. Like, that was his domain. Pacquiao really good at that. And I'm going to waste my time getting hit unnecessarily at mid-range. And he not bigger than Pacquiao. Pacquiao was the heavier guy. So Pacquiao would have much more pop. So Floyd was like, you know what? I'm make sure he know I'm there. I'm gonna hit him with some heat so he knows, hey, you can't just walk in here on me. You can't just walk me down, walk all over me. But at the same time, I'm not gonna take unnecessary risk, getting tagged up and all of that, just to say I'm duking it out with you and to bully you and push you back. That's the game you like. You like us to come to you, just like how you don't like to go to me. You want me to come to you. Well, no, you're going to come to me, and I'll make sure you come to me. So Floyd won that battle because Pacquiao also, he gets fighters to come to him. If you watch the Keith Thurman versus Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman had to chase down Pacquiao. He was chasing down Pacquiao. If you haven't realized, Pacquiao was counterpunching him, right? So Pacquiao liked to sit back and be the counterpuncher as well. So when Pacquiao says, "Oh, he running," I laugh because it's like, Ninja, that's what you do. That's your game. Don't even try. Oh, he go toe to toe. Pacquiao, you say you going toe to toe, but what you like to do is bait guys in. You a bait and counter guy. Pacquiao's a bait and counter guy. For those of you who don't know, I'm gonna expose Pacquiao right now. Pacquiao's game is to bait and counter you. Duran's game is to bait and counter you. But Duran will do all his work on the inside, right? He gets under your shots and throws body punches, right? But that's how Duran gets to the inside. Bait and counter. Floyd is a bait and counter dude. Okay? That's why Floyd's dangerous to Oscar De La Hoya and Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley is not a bait and counter. Oscar De La Hoya is not a bait and counter. Sugar Ray Leonard, yeah, he's a bait and counter. Sugar Ray Leonard's a bait and counter, right? But Marvin Hagler wasn't a bait and counter. Thomas the Hitman Hearns, not a bait and counter. They like to walk you down. They like to bully you. But bait and counter fighters are tricky. They're tricky. Bernard Whitaker, bait and counter, right? The bait and counter fighters, Canelo Alvarez, yeah, he can walk to you, but he set traps and he baits and counters as well. Yeah. So when two bait and counter fighters come together, it's a tactical fight. It's going to be explosive in spots, but it's tactical for most of the part. And if you go look at all the throwback fighters and all the throwback fights, that's how they always go. You have these moments where they're throwing jabs, they're throwing punches, they're circling each other, they're sizing each other up and stuff. But there's not a whole lot of action going on, right? There's not a whole lot of action going on. It's not like a to and fro, nonstop action. It's not like that. You look at Sugar Ray Robinson versus Jake LaMotta for a good portion of a round. Like you're talking about like 2 minutes out of the whole round. They're just circling one another, throwing jabs, circling one another. Then somebody throws something, overcommit, reach, and then the other guy start counting his ass, right? That's just the way how it goes in boxing. And for those people who don't know what boxing is, do it. Try doing 3 rounds. I only want you to do, sorry, not 3 rounds. I want you to do 1 round, 1 3-minute round, sparring an opponent. If you got no experience, fine, jump in the ring. I want you to learn some respect. The only thing is, I would prefer you go spar somebody who's seasoned and somebody who has a lot of control, so they won't hit you and hurt you really badly. I just want you to feel what it feels like to go 3 minutes. Okay? That's all I want you to do. Go into an experienced gym. Tell them you want to soup up. Go against an experienced fighter who's not going to hurt you. So you want to make sure the guy is not going to punch you and hurt you. He's going to still he can touch you to the body. He can throw a jab to the body and them kind of things to soften you up, to let you feel what it feel like to go into that experience. I assure you, half of you, if not more, most of you will not make it through the round. Why? I don't care how fit you think you are. You're not going to make it through. You're not going to make it through 3 minutes. So just go, hop into a gym, any gym, into the ring, get the most experienced fighter. Say I want to, or get a coach or a trainer, even a coach. Get the coach to spar the coach. And I want an experienced fighter because you don't want him to hurt you unnecessarily. They might be wild with punches, and next thing you have a broken jaw. You don't want that. So you want somebody who's controlled and can handle their stories, and you're gonna understand just by the end of that fight, by the end of that 1 3-minute round, you're going to understand what boxers actually go through. It's going to humble you a lot. Okay? Just 3 minutes. Just 3 minutes. And most of you are not going to make it through those 3 minutes. And guess what? You're going to be throwing stuff and you're going to be missing. You're gonna be throwing stuff, and he gonna handle you. He's gonna control you. He's gonna control your body. He's gonna put his weight down on you. He's gonna maybe just touch you with the jab, just touch you with the jab in different parts. You're gonna be so sore at the end of that. You want to collapse. You want to die if you make it through the 3 minutes. Okay, that's boxing. I'm telling y'all now. Okay, so for a guy, they say, quote unquote, be running, you gotta be in ridiculous conditioning first of all to even do that. All right, and Pacquiao Mayweather in ridiculous condition, ridiculous, ridiculous. Troy Ingram says Pac and Duran had to fight like that because of a reach disadvantage. They probably would have been better with long arms so they could jab more. When Leonard fought Duran the second fight, he figured Duran out. Yeah. Leonard could have fought Duran the first time and beat him pretty easy. He could have done that the first time. He let his emotions get the better of him, and he wanted to show that he could fight Duran's fight and beat him at his own fight. And he thought, just like he erroneously, like everybody's spreading out, Floyd's too small for Hearns, he's too small for Leonard. He thought he was too big for Duran. And you never go into a fight underestimating your opponent. You never go into a fight saying, "Oh, he's so small, I could beat him. I could beat his ass." That's how Pacquiao beat most of the guys that he faced. He a little guy, man. He's small. Meanwhile, Pacquiao's not taking the brunt of the punishment. You are trying to find him, hunt him down, and beat him up. And that's what Leonard tried to do. He tried to bully Duran, and he learned a hard lesson that Duran ain't the guy to bully. Right? And especially against counterpunchers. If you go up against a counterpuncher, his size don't get... In fact, some fighters have difficulty with shorter, smaller fighters than they have with guys their size or bigger. Yes, he played completely into Duran's game. He could have just done his game. He could have just done him. Like how Floyd did him. Floyd did him against Pacquiao. He didn't play into Pacquiao's hand. He ain't going to play Pacquiao's game. Yeah, Pacquiao's real small. Yeah. He's shorter than me. But being small is an advantage, like I said before. Being small is an advantage because you can get under shots much more easily than a taller fighter. With a taller fighter. So a tall, towering Thomas Hearns versus a short Floyd Mayweather or a short Manny Pacquiao or a short Aaron Pryor. That's actually not favoring Hearns because you tall. They can get under your shots and get to the inside of you and work your body. But people don't think like that. And it has to take somebody of reputation to say that for everybody to mouth it. But if a guy like me or some other fan observes that and says, "Hey, man, but Hearns never really did well with shorter guys. He always struggled with shorter guys." Suddenly, everybody, and the thing with some people, and I'm not trying to disrespect Hearns because Hearns was a hell of a fighter at super middleweight, especially in light heavyweight. He had all his game. He had all the game. He had defense, everything. He had everything, and he was a bad boy. So if let's say that version of Hearns faced Mayweather, oh Jesus Christ, that would have been a difficult fight. I might even favor Hearns to win that one because that Hearns is a problem. But the Hearns at welterweight and up to middleweight, welterweight to middleweight, he didn't have all his game. He didn't have all the defense that he needed to have, and so that is why. And his body wasn't his body wasn't fully flushed out. He wasn't filled out like he was at super middleweight and light heavyweight. So you can hit him with body shots, and he did tire later on in the later halves of the fights. It's not that he didn't have a good chin. It's just that he tired out. He got tired as the fight goes on because it's like you shrinking all the way down to 147 when you really comfortable more at 168, 175. That's more your weight. You know what I mean? So it was hard on him. And then same day weigh-ins that do nobody no favors. You know what I'm saying? So, but he was a bad boy, man. Thomas Hearns was a bad boy. And he could box too. He could box pretty well. You know what I mean? But my point anyway is not that. My point is that boxing as a sport evolves. Since the 80s, a lot of things have happened in boxing. And the reason why you don't see so much guys getting knocked down multiple times and a lot of drama in boxing and all of that is because the boxers today, it's not that they're more cautious, it's that they're more defensively responsible. You're not gonna get caught with them kind of stupid, reckless shots anymore. Where you remember Ike Butte versus Oscar De La Hoya. They had multiple knockdowns. Or Marcos Maidana versus Victor Ortiz. Multiple knockdowns. That's because the dudes in their defense wasn't the best, right? And Sugar Ray Leonard versus Donnie Lalonde. Sugar Ray Leonard's defense wasn't the best. He was fighting Donnie Lalonde, and he was fighting smart. Don't get me wrong. He was putting pressure to him, getting within the reach, staying close to him to beat him up. That's what actually the guy previously, Donnie Lalonde, lost before that. That's how he lost, right? So Sugar Ray had a good game plan, but his defense wasn't 100%. Donnie Lalonde was never supposed to drop your ass. Never. Not if you had your not if you was holding the phone, but you wasn't holding the phone all the time, right? And when he's coming with his big left hook, he's known for his big left hook. The Sugars. He's good. That's his bread and butter. You get under that shot, man. You get under it. You the shorter guy. He got a dip to get to you. You get under that shot, man. You get under that shot. You dip under the shot. Hold the phone and get under the shot. And so these fundamental things, that's why I said, you can have a fundamentally sound fighter who's a really good fighter. Like he's got fighting instincts and everything. And he can naturally adapt and adjust to things. But it's different when we get into the science of it now, where motherfucker be repeating things over and over and over since they was kids. And not only that, but now they're doing the right stuff defensively while they're mounting their offense. You have no shot in hell against those guys. So while they're going against each other and you're seeing them doing these crazy shit and taking some punches that are crazy and they're not getting dropped or anything, and so you're not seeing the drama that your time used to have, right? That don't mean that you could step in the ring with them and do what you did back in the day. You would get destroyed. They would look great against you because you missing certain fundamental things. You missing certain key ingredients that you need to have that today's fighters have. And that's the thing they don't understand, that boxing has evolved, and not only evolved in terms of building on the fundamentals, but also even the strategies and techniques used today are just fundamentally much more effective in getting proper conditioning, in the mental mindset about how to approach a fight and so on, than back in the day. And don't tell me that guys don't throw combinations today. I just recently watched a fight with two young fighters, and man, they was throwing a lot of combinations, but a lot of those combinations getting blocked, right? Because they also have good defense. So even if they're being busy, yes, but they're also being busy, and the other guy is equal to the task of having a response or an answer for whatever the other guy's doing, right? So when you meet two sharp fighters who really sharp and everything, but they got good defense, you're going to have those competitive fights. But nobody's getting dropped. You still get action. Guys might throw 500 to 600 punches, right? They trying to thread the needle, trying to find a way to get through. Shout out to Chris Ariel. What's up, my brother? But at the end of the day, don't expect that you're going to see a lot of drama and people getting knocked out. It's a sport, and guys are getting up to speed with the sport. I see guys who are capable of throwing 10-punch combinations, right? But instead of throwing 10-punch combinations, they will choose to pot shot here, pot shot there. But once they get their opponent hurt, you see them offload 10-punch combinations. You see them offload 8-punch combinations, right? Because it's not like they can't throw combinations in the gym. It's not like they can go for 30 minutes, 40 minutes just throwing punches, right? They can do it. And they can do variety too. They can mix up their punches, and they can mix up their staccato beats, how they throw the punches and the different rhythms of the punches and all of that. They can do all of that. They can even shift their body weight and go to the side or go this way or go that way or approach at an angle. They can do all of that stuff. But in a fight, to find those available holes all the time when a guy is being defensively responsible like that is a lot harder. right? It's a lot harder to do today because guys are really on their defense today. Floyd made it a point of making defense a very important part of boxing. And a lot of guys now are fighting smarter than harder. Now you got the Jarrett Hurds out there that would throw 800, 900 punches a fight. You still got some fighters who throw 600, 700, 800 punches, right? But they're wasting a lot of those punches. They're wasting a lot of those punches. Their connect percentage is quite low. It's 18% to 20 something percent, right? Throw a lot of punches and it's cool, but how effective are you really being? And people say, well, there's real excitement there because he's throwing a lot of punches. Look how great that is. I was watching Reyes versus the Chinese kid. Reyes was digging to the body, man. He was beating up that boy. And the Chinese kid was throwing flurries too. And he was answering back to say, I got it. But most of the shots he was throwing back, Reyes was blocking, right? He's mostly a blocker. But Reyes was doing some beautiful things. He was doing the Henry Armstrong where he was starting to bob and weave and walk to the inside. And he pop his jab as he's coming in. Man, it was beautiful. He lost the fight. Yeah, the judges didn't give him the decision. They gave it to the Chinese kid because, they create this narrative and this story about him and everything. And the Chinese representatives and all the Chinese people are there. So, the judges give it to him. Boxing is not rewarded all the time. All right, especially if you're not a name brand. I'm going to tell you some of the fighters right now that don't get no respect, okay? Ray Robinson doesn't get no respect, okay? Adrian Granados don't get no respect. In fact, just up to recently there, Conor Benn says he was running, even though this motherfucker was walking him down. He's walking down Conor Benn, taking it to him, and then when he's ready, he would circle the ring and box him, right? And then when he's ready again, he'd take the fight to him. So when he wanted to do something, he was a ring general, Adrian Granados, he did what he wanted to do. And Conor Benn was like a fool just following him, right? He couldn't even cut off the ring. My point being, deficient boxers always complain and cry and moan and bitch, right? And everybody say, oh, Pacquiao is so humble. Well, if you're humble, you can say the better man won tonight and end that story. Don't make no damn excuses. Because if you're making excuses, then you ain't humble. You just put it on a facade. Okay? And it so sours the win of your opponent. Even if you're robbed. That's why I give Oscar De La Hoya so many props. Oscar never, ever, even when he was robbed by Shane Mosley, in the Shane Mosley fight, that is, he never turned around and blamed anything. He said, well, I thought I wanted to fight and I'll take it up at the board, but if not, I'm just going to let it go. Oscar was that kind of dude, and I really like him for that. He was a stand-up dude in that respect. Even with Pacquiao, he never, ever complained about nothing. Never. The situation was known, but he never complained about it. He said, Pacquiao beat my ass, and that was that. That's a real true champion. That's a humble fighter, in my opinion. Chris Oriole says, Ben could hurt his shoulders throwing in at the air that way. Yeah, rotator cuff injuries. Yeah, he could tear a rotator cuff doing that. That's for sure. For sure. A couple of rotator cuffs, actually. Yeah, because again, when we're talking boxing, right? When we're talking boxing, a lot of people out here do not know boxing. And I'm trying my best with the channel I have to talk about it. And people say I'm arrogant when I say, no, this motherfucker don't know shit about, you just don't know shit about boxing. You don't know what you're talking about, right? And I don't mean to be like that. I'm a fan just like them. But it's just that you talking like you never, ever even watch a boxing fight. Ever. Like never. Right? And the ignorant, stupid stuff I hear people say, it's just, I heard this one. So if a guy is running in the ring, right? If a guy's literally running in the ring, let's say he's running ring laps or whatever. You telling me you can't cut him off? You don't know how to cut off the ring? That's what you're telling me. When you tell me, oh, he was running. Okay, so if he's running, cut off the ring, right? Are you telling me that you couldn't cut off the ring? That's what you're telling me. If you make that crying excuse, he was running, then you don't know how to cut off the ring. In which case, you need to learn how to do that. Because you just confessing to everybody, I'm not as good a boxer as I claim I am. I'm actually shitty at cutting off the ring. That's what you're basically saying to everybody. You're saying I'm deficient. I'm insufficient. I just don't know how to cut off the ring. That's what you're telling me. And cutting off the ring, it does call for some balls. It calls for some balls because you can get hit, right? We've seen Alfredo Angulo cut off the ring on Erislandy Lara. Everybody say, Lara be running. He running. You know, remember Canelo making that excuse? Lara's running. Cut off the fucking ring then, right? Because Alfredo Angulo did it and put him down twice. You couldn't even put him down once. So, cut off the ring. What do you think it is? If a guy's boxing you, what are you supposed to do? Pressure him. Bring the fight to him. That's what you're supposed to do, which involves cutting off the ring. If you don't know how to cut off the ring, that's not on us. Another thing I hear them say is, oh, he clinching. He's holding. No, sorry, my bad. They don't say that. He's hugging. He hugged too much. He hugging all the time. If he's hugging and you know he's going to come to hug you, break the hug. Break the hug. You don't know how to break the hug? You don't know how to break a hug? So learn how to break a hug. Some guys can really clinch really tightly. Nobody's saying no. And sometimes you just don't resist them. You lose that one. But you set them up. You set them up to come in for the clinch. You know they're going, after they punch, they're going to clinch, right? They falling into clinch. So what do you do? What do you do when a guy's falling into clinch? What does Marcus Maidana do when Floyd tried to roll into clinch him? What did he do? Drop. You drop low and open out your arms. Drop low and open out your arms. He can't clinch you. So you roll under and you come back up with a punch. And you beat his ass. And you beat him into making sure that he don't clinch. Okay? Because for every action in boxing, there is a counter to it. There is an equal and opposite reaction. Right? That's boxing. You will never see somebody clinch Marcos Maidana so easily. He'll make you pay. You will pay for clinching. Adrian Broner paid for clinching. Floyd paid for clinching. Go watch Alexander Povetkin versus the Cuban fighter. I forgot his name. He was coming in for the clinch. Povetkin, head down, shoulders out. I'm going to show you. Real simple. I'm here. You coming in to clinch me, right? Head down, shoulders out. It's a martial arts move, actually. And roll under. Boom. Or, as you're rolling under, overhand right, because he's coming in this way, right? So his head is going to be up in the air. Boom. Okay? Every action has a counter to it in boxing. It's chess, not checkers. Every play has a counterplay. Every play in boxing. No man in boxing is unbeatable. No man in boxing is unbeatable. Right? And everybody in boxing, you see, so you have to know what you bring into the table. You got to know yourself as a boxer. You have to know what you can do well. All right? Shout out to Uncle Robert's Boxing. Duran's resume overrated. Seriously, you need to view. Oh, come on, man. You coming with this fanboy shit again, man? Dude, we never said that his resume, well, we're not saying his resume is overrated. We never said that. We said there's a lot about Duran that's overrated. And it's true. And I'm going to cite an example. Duran beat Ken Buchanan. Don't get me wrong. He was beating his ass. He dropped him twice early on. Ken Buchanan was on a little surge. He had a little run that was going on. And Duran hit him in the balls. He didn't hit him in the stomach. He hit him in the balls. That's how the fight stopped. That's how he beat Ken Buchanan. Everybody praised Duran for beating Ken Buchanan, forgetting that important fact. And also, the next important fact is the WBC had ordered Duran to have a rematch with Ken Buchanan or he be stripped. All right? So when we talk about Roberto Duran being overrated, we know what we're talking about. We don't come here like fanboys to talk about shit. We talk boxing. Now, no disrespect to Duran. He one of the greatest fighters ever. Let's make that abundantly clear. 2, very few fighters did what Duran has done. Moved from 100 and I think he started off at 118 pounds. If I'm not mistaken, he was a bantamweight. Duran started his career at bantamweight. For those who don't know, he was about 16 years old or something like that, and he moved all the way up to super middleweight. He had a super middleweight fight. Now it wasn't for a title or anything. All right, that motherfucker could fight, and he fought till he was 50 years old. All right, so when we talk about Roberto Duran, we know he's a great fighter. Okay, we're not fanboys here, we're not haters here. Okay, but we talk the truth about the entire career so you can get a proper perspective of the man. All right, when we talk bait and counter, Duran was the king of bait and counter. Motherfucker was sick. Okay. So we're not here because I take things from Duran. What some of Duran's style, I use some of his stuff. Floyd took his little pull counter, even though he does it in a variations a little bit different to Duran. He borrowed that from Duran. Okay, I'm not saying that Duran's the only guy that pull counter. A lot of guys pull counter, right? Before Duran, but Duran was trained by a great trainer, Ray Arcel, right? For those who don't know who Ray Arcel is, just look him up. He's a who's who of boxing he trained, okay? Including Sugar Ray Robinson. So all I'm saying is, I'm not downing Duran. Duran's a bad motherfucker. Bad motherfucker. And to this day, I have an ultimate respect for the guy. Okay? And this guy, he know a lot of stuff. Okay? Because he's a brilliant counterpuncher. The best way to describe Duran is he's a counterpuncher, infighter. And that combination I never heard about before Duran, right? You had Henry Armstrong was a bob and weaver. He would bob and weave his way to the inside. Duran don't bob and weave to get to the inside, right? He would counterpunch, roll in, and then do his work on the inside, all right? So he's very explosive, beautiful feints, okay? Oh, we could talk about Duran for the rest of this stream if you want, because Duran had all kinds of tricks up his sleeve. He feint one way, he go another way, right? He got you guessing. But you have to play his game. That's my point. You have to play his game to be able for him to do his thing. If you don't play his game, if you play your game, that is, you're saying, oh no, homie. I know where you most effective. I'm gonna step around you. I'm gonna keep you turning. I'm gonna keep you guessing now. Now I'm going to dictate with my jab, right? Now, if you start to do that to him, that is where you're not playing his game. And it's a harder fight for him, because he's explosive. He's kind of like Pacquiao. He's very explosive. And he hurts you before he gets to the inside. So instead of jabbing his way in, for example, and coming off the jab, he'll counter you and come off the counter. A very explosive counterpuncher, right? And he can counter you with the left hand. He can counter you with the right hand. You don't know which one's coming because he can position himself. You know what's beautiful about Duran? I'm gonna show y'all something. Duran was a guy. Sergey Kovalev. You remember Sergey Kovalev was leaned to the side, kind of like this, and he got his jab here. He's got his jab here, and he's got his right hand cocked. And you don't know if he's going to jab you or if he's going to throw the right hand. That was Duran. But Duran had a kind of awkward movement. So he'd be kind of like this. And then he'd flick out the jab. Any kind of jab. But he's baiting you. And you don't know if he's coming back with another jab You don't know if he's coming with the right hand. You don't know if he's coming with the left hook. Because his posture, his angling and his posture is such that he could throw any one of the three. See? And that's the beautiful thing about Durant. Durant was his movements remind me of Marcus Maidana. It's kind of like he moves like he doesn't care, but he's very fast and just explosive, right? But he's setting you up and you don't even realize it. He's setting you up and you don't even realize it. Very brilliant fighter. Yeah, he had he used to smile. Yep. He's clever, very clever fighter. So you don't know what's coming with Durant, and that was the thing with Durant. That's how he set you up. And if you don't know, you can't just, like I said before, with like Pacquiao and all these guys, you can't just be a jabber, because Durant, he could get past your jab if you just standing there jabbing him, or you're going straight back jabbing him. And then if you're just doing normal lateral movement like this, if you're doing just this, I mean, the guy's so sick. I mean, I could talk about him for days, right? But all I'm gonna say is, when I speak about these fighters, right? I think people don't. I have a lot of reverence for them, right? I have a lot of reverence for them. I have a lot of respect for them. So when I'm speaking about them, I think people get the wrong idea that I don't admire them or I don't like them. I love Durant, man. When a guy's running around the ring, right? We talking running, like, he's moving excessively. He's bouncing and he's trying to bounce and jab or whatever, right? Like Lou Bizarro. Lou Bizarro is literally running around the ring, and then he would try and slide in and clinch Durant, right? So Durant's a guy, he's going to cut down the ring in segments, right? Well, we all know the ring has 4 quadrants. So he's going to cut down the ring in segments. So Durant, he had difficulty keeping up with Bizarro, because Bizarro was moving really fast. And then he was doing some awkward things, like he would literally go for a jog and then kind of just jump in on him, right? He wasn't even trying to throw punches at a certain point. He was just jumping in on him. So Durant was trying to get used to his very erratic rhythm, right? And so, but what the thing with Durant was, he wasn't wasting his movement. He wasn't wasting his foot movement. So he realized, so what he did, the first thing Durant started doing was turning with the guy. He was just turning with him. So Bizarro is making all this movement, going all the way around the ring, and all Durant was doing, and I saw Danny Garcia do the same thing against Lamont Peterson, is Durant would just turn with him. So he's watching him and he's just turning with him, right? So that's the first thing, because you wasting all this energy running all the way around the ring, right? You're wasting energy. You're going to tire your own damn self out. Then I'm going to go get you. So he's smart. So he's watching him, not going after him. He's just watching him, and he's turning with him. Okay. So what you're doing when you're turning with him, and you just stay in the center of the ring, and you just turn. I already got the center of the ring. I wanted the center of the ring. So I'm the king of the center of the ring. So that's established already. I don't have to worry about it. So I'm turning with him, right? And he's making laps around the ring, right? Which is absolutely unnecessary. He's way out of range, but he's running, right? And so obviously he's not a very smart boxer. So when people say the running, Durant versus Lou Bizarro. Watch that. It's great, because Bizarro, he had won I think he won all his fights up to the Durant fight. And I guess he did it by, jab and move plenty, right? Jab and move plenty, right? So he jab and he's gone, he's take off like a bullet, right? And come back in and jab a little bit and gone. Or clinch, right? So that's what a lot of people think when they think oh, he's boxing? No, he running, right? That's what they talk about, because they're thinking of the times with certain boxers. Another guy, Ray Lamkin. Now, Ray Lamkin, to be fair to him, was a quality boxer. He actually was the NABF champion. He had lost to, I can't remember who he lost to, but then I think he regained the NABF title before he faced Durant. So he was a legitimate boxer, a good boxer. right? Didn't have no power. He couldn't knock out a fly, but he was a good boxer, and he gave Duran a good fight. I think he went 11 rounds with Duran or whatever. And with Ray Lamkin, I'm gonna tell y'all. Nah, I'm gonna leave that alone. But suffice it to say, I love how Duran would start. He starts with a small pivot, and then now he gradually started working on cutting off the ring. Now he didn't do that until probably because he's trying to make sense of this dude just excessively moving around the ring, I guess. And then he caught on, and then so what he would do is, let's say the guy is coming this way, he's circling clockwise, right? He's circling clockwise, going around me clockwise, right? So you have to know when to step in on a fighter, right? You can't just and of course. So what you do is, let's say the guy's coming this way, right? I'm gonna start moving across this way with him. You got to move with him. If you just try to step in on him, right? He's always going to have that movement ahead of you, no matter what. If you step in this way on a fighter, he can go this way, and he's ahead of you. Now you have to turn with. So the only way is to come out of the turn is if a guy's coming this way, you step. If he's coming towards the camera, for example, as he's circling, you step towards the camera with him. So you start to cut him off. Okay? But you don't go all the way that way. You just go maybe one step or two steps, and you let him circle this way, and you step again with him, right? So you're just trying to make sure you track him, so that whenever you get to him, you're close enough to him. You understand what I'm saying? That's how you cut off the ring. You don't cut off the ring by just stepping in on a guy, right? That you don't cut off the ring doing that, right? So basically, my dude, he starts doing that. He steps with him, right? And of course, the guy's going to try and jump in at certain points, throw a jab or throw a punch, while he's jumping in, and then probably try and clinch up, right? And then he was trying to do the same thing all over again. And what Duran might do is he might follow him. So as they break the clinch and he might go in like he faint as if he's going to go in on him, and then let's let the guy run. I'm burning himself out, and that's how he caught up to him, right? Once you cutting off the ring and you're moving with the guy and you're getting closer and closer to the guy, you're putting more pressure on him, and he's burning up all this energy because when you moving excessively in the ring, you're burning up a lot of energy and you're excited, so you're burning up even more energy. I'm gonna let him burn out, and then I'm gonna get him. He gonna slow down. I'm gonna get him. I don't even have to throw a punch to slow a guy down, right? So that was the brilliance of Roberto Duran, and that's how you cut off a ring on a guy. If a guy has good composure, on the other hand, he could go 12. He's used to going 12 rounds doing that. It's because they're two very important things. And again, I don't mean to like talk boxing like that, but I have to talk it. It ain't easy to keep your composure when somebody throwing punches at you, and you gotta block it, right? It's not easy to weather that storm, especially when you get punches you only have just 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 punches coming at you at a time. It's not easy. You have to have a lot of experience in the ring to be able to stay calm under all of that and relax. Because the other thing is, you see this guard here? You don't want to have it too stiff. You don't want to have it too rigid. You want to be able to move it, close it off, protect your sides. You want to be able to protect yourself with this guard, right? You don't want to have somebody coming in. The other thing is, and shout out to Anthony, Coach Anthony. Shout out to Coach Anthony. He taught me a little something to add to my game. You never want to be standing like this in front of an opponent. Just like this. Right? Maybe just doing this, shuffling your feet. Nope. You want to be. You always want to be moving. Because a moving target's harder to hit than a still target. Right? So you want to always be moving in front of your opponent. And you can practice not just shuffling your feet, but you can also right? You can, in other words, you never steal in front of your opponent. A moving target's harder to hit than, so you can practice slipping, right? You can try to practice slip, 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 dip, right? Right? You're constantly moving in front of your opponent. You want to have that happening. And what does this have to do with anything? So this has to do with, if a guy says he's running, you better know how to cut off the ring. That's why I said versatility in boxing is important. If you're going to be an elite fighter, if you're going to be a top tier fighter, you need to bring multiple things to your game. You must be able to infight. You must be able to walk to an opponent, fight on the back foot, fight in the trenches, in the pocket, fight in the center of the ring. You should be able to fight off the ropes. You should be able to, and of course, for a guy like me, I can't do all those things at this old age, but I could try to do some of them, right? It's just way too much. But my point is, the other thing you must have is the fundamentals. You must be able to, you must perfect the fundamentals. You must know how to use the lead hand. Not just the jab. Not just the jab. You must be able to use a lead left hook. Okay? So off with the spear jab, left hook. Jab, hook, hook, right? You should be able to do it. So, right? Okay. And then also, you should be able to utilize your other hand as a lead hand. So I'm a southpaw. So I twist my shoulders. I set up the spear jab, and instead I throw the lead left. Ha! Okay? So I now have a left hand lead. Okay? Because they must not know what's coming. You can't be predictable in boxing. That's the problem with a lot of guys. They're very predictable. Instead of throwing the jab, I throw my left hand. And they don't know if it's going to hit them in the head or the body. You got to have them guessing. And they don't know if I'm in front of them. They don't know if I'm to the side of them. Right? I may be off to the side right here. Ha ha! Right? Ha ha! Right? So it's about utilizing your versatility in boxing, right? You have to be versatile. That means whether it is your versatility is because you innately try to do things, which is not the best way to go, or it is from things you've been taught, your skills, okay? Your skills. And the more you respect boxing, the history of boxing, the past greats and stuff, is the more you can learn things from what they did, and you can try things too. Try things. That's what I like about Deontay Wilder. They say he can't box, whatever. I don't agree. You don't get to be a world champion if you can't box. I don't agree with that. And it's not just his power. He got to set up his power. And you got to have a jab to set up your power. He don't just throw the right hand, right? I'm a southpaw, right? He'd be throwing that jab, and he throws it like this. Yeah, yeah. Watch it here. Ha! You can't see it, right? So from this side, ha! See it? Ha! Ha! Right? He throws it like this. It's a power jab, and it comes down. That's how he throws his jab, right? Like that. That's how Wilder throw his jab. Then sometimes he bend this way and he throw it here, or he throw it down this way. Yeah. Right? And he tries sometimes to change levels and throw it here. Oh, you can't see me. Right? He tries to throw it there too. He's a little sloppy because he's a big tall guy. And he don't have an extensive amateur career. So he's doing extremely well for a guy that doesn't have an extensive amateur career and started late in life. Hell of a fighter. Very good athlete. But he's a hell of a fighter. That's why I fancy him doing better against Tyson Fury the second time around. Tyson Fury talking about he gonna squash him and he gonna do this and he gonna do that. I mean, I do see Tyson Fury winning the second fight, but I don't think it's gonna go like how the third fight. Sorry, but I don't see it going like how the second fight was. But my point anyway is that this hate against Floyd Mayweather is bad, man. It's bad. And just because the guy beat everybody in his era, you know how people are. King of the mountain kind of thing. Kind of the same thing they did with Rocky Marciano. Kind of the same thing they did with my boy, what's his name? El Finito Lopez, right? They talk him down, whatever. The dude fought everybody of his era. El Finito Lopez fought every fighter of his era that he was supposed to fight. He cleaned out, shot. You can ask for more, right? He got one draw in this whole entire thing, but 51 fights, one draw, right? So, I mean, you got to give El Finito props. Mayweather, you got to give him props. I see people making all kinds of stupid excuses that had nothing to do with boxing. You know, he beats his wife, and they say he's a drug cheat. I never heard that. He's a dirty fighter. I never heard that, right? I don't see him as a dirty fighter. So I never quite understood that. They say he's a cherry picker. I never understood that. Because there's no facts to prove that how could you be a cherry picker and you picking the best fighters? The very best fighters. Only top 10 fighters this man has faced for the last, since he's been his own boss. Not a single fighter is not a top 10 welterweight or super welterweight. How's that cherry picking? All right? I mean, not only that, but think about this. Think about this. Whenever he faced a guy, I mean, we don't need to recall this, right? But we're going to do it. Whenever he faced the guy was more than likely, except for Zab Judah, the guy was more than likely coming off one of his greatest wins. He had just made a big splash, right? And let's just go through the guys when he was his own boss, not when he was under Bob Arum. When he was under Bob Arum, he fought Zab Judah, and then after the Zab Judah incident, it was Carlos Butler. Carlos Butler was coming off of knocking out Arturo Gatti and beating Zab Judah. That's what Carlos Butler was coming off of. The biggest wins of his career, right? Zab Judah was coming off Carlos Butler was coming off the biggest wins of his career. When he faced Oscar De La Hoya, he had knocked out Ricardo Mayorga faster than Tito did. Tito was the only other guy before him that knocked out Ricardo Mayorga. Okay? I mean, what do you want me to say? Then he faced Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton knocked out Jose Luis Castillo, who had just jumped up to super lightweight. He had beaten a super lightweight, knocked out the super lightweight, and he faced Ricky Hatton. But he also came off of beating Ryan Durango, and he put on a boxing clinic on Ryan Durango. Was it? Yeah. And he put on a boxing clinic on Ryan Durango. And Ryan Durango was undefeated. He was beating up everybody, right? He was the IBF champ. And Ricky Hatton outboxed him. Now, Ryan Durango was a bit slow. He was strong as fuck. Ricky Hatton couldn't stop him. You know, was hitting him with some good body shots. But Ricky Hatton put on a boxing clinic on him. Okay? When you look at he faced Marquez. Marquez was coming off the biggest win of. Sorry about that, but battery died. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you know, when you talk about hate for these guys, man, I don't understand it, man. I don't understand it. You're talking about a guy who faced Shane Mosley coming off of one of his greatest wins against Antonio Margarito. You're talking about Victor Ortiz coming off of one of his greatest win, well, actually his greatest win against Andre Berto. You're talking about Miguel Cotto avenging his loss to Antonio Margarito and having 3 knockouts wins straight, right? Then we're talking about Canelo coming off of his biggest win at the time against Austin Trout, undefeated Austin Trout, just beat Miguel Cotto. Then we're talking about him facing Marcos Maidana, who came off of his biggest win against Adrian Broner, Like what are we talking about, man? Manny Pacquiao just knocked out Chris Algieri, knocked down Chris Algieri 6 times, and then he beat Timothy Bradley, avenging his loss. I mean, what part of this is cherry picking? Help me understand. Huh? What fighters today are picking guys coming off of their greatest wins? What fighters today are doing that? I'm just asking. You look at Andre Berto had just stopped. Andre Berto just come off of stopping. Who was the guy? Yeah, Josecito Lopez. I think he stopped. He was coming off of the Josecito Lopez win, where he stopped Josecito Lopez, the guy that broke Victor Ortiz's jaw. Right? I mean, every single one of these guys was coming off of a great win. When Floyd picked him and said, "Hey, I'm gonna face this dude." All right. Respect to Conor McGregor. He had just avenged his loss to what's the kid's name? Nick and Nate. What was his surname? I forgot. Whatever. The UFC kid. He just avenged his loss. You understand what I'm saying? So Nick and Nate something. I can't remember their names. For some reason, Nate Campbell keeps on coming up in my mind. Nate Campbell was a great southpaw as well. Slick southpaw, really good skills, you know. But my point anyway is, how's that cherry picking, man? You know, and it all again comes back to the Pactards. The Pactards is the people who leading this charge. Oh, he tried to wait out Manny Pacquiao. I even heard Max Kellerman saying this nonsense. Oh, he tried to wait out Manny Pacquiao. Come on, man. He didn't try to wait out nobody. He was trying to get the fight. He was trying to get the Pacquiao fight. He had been trying to get that Pacquiao fight for the longest while, since 2010. He came back to face Manny Pacquiao. What are you talking about, man? You know? And it's this sort of thing that, for me, it is annoying because there's so much hate towards this guy for reasons unknown to me, except that he just brought about excellence in his boxing. I don't really care about his out-of-the-ring experience, but as a boxer and in terms of boxing, this motherfucker was a bad motherfucker. It's just what it is. Right? And because we keep on trying to tear down the very best, I see them trying to tear down Canelo. I mean, is some of it deserving now? I don't know, man. You know what I mean? But, you know, they try to tear down Canelo since he beat Triple G. They hate Canelo because he beat Triple G. Triple G was supposed to be the guy that beat up Canelo and teach him a lesson, right? Didn't happen. That's why they say he lost the first fight. Canelo lost the first fight to Triple G. Oh, they will never. These haters will never acknowledge that Canelo beat Triple G's ass in the first fight. Made him look stupid, right? Beat him easy. And they want to go in and Adelaide Bird on our scorecard and stuff. But y'all wanted Triple G to knock out Canelo. That's the truth. Y'all hated the dude and thought, Triple G would mess him up. And the same thing with Pacquiao Mayweather. Y'all was hoping and praying that Pacquiao would stop Mayweather. He would knock him out. He would hurt him real bad. That's what y'all was looking forward to. And because it didn't happen, y'all saying, oh, it was the most boring fight of the century. It was a terrible fight. Blah, blah, blah. No, y'all motherfucking hating ass, right? Didn't want to see the guy. You wanted to see the guy lose and lose bad. You wanted to see him get punished. But if you really wanted to see that, then you go watch the first Marcos Maidana fight with him. And I was laughing all the way through that fight, right? That's what. And what did they say? They say Marcos Maidana beat him and Castillo beat him. Why? Because it was a lively fight and Marcos Maidana was actually landing on Floyd. So yeah, he was beating him up. You know what I'm saying? And Marcos Maidana was rough and rugged, right? I loved it. Marcos Maidana is one of my favorite fighters. I don't hate Marcos Maidana. But if I was a Pacquiao fan, I was a Pactard, I had so much hate in my heart for Marcos Maidana. He's the dirtiest fighter ever, and blah, 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 blah. It's the stupidity of these people, man. Public enemy number one is anybody who beats Manny Pacquiao. Anybody who beats Manny Pacquiao. And if Manny Pacquiao can't get his revenge, he can't get to beat the guy back, he's the worst thing ever. And so they start making memes and all kinds of stupid stuff because they got no facts. They had nothing to go by. And I hate that stupidness. because y'all not talking boxing. Y'all not really about the boxing. Y'all not really about the sport. You can't take the L and move on. And you talk about, oh, a L is nothing in boxing. But apparently this L is a big deal. It's a big deal for you. You can't take the L. Some of y'all still in deluded land. With what was the guy name? Artorias Boxing. He suddenly become the new revised punch stats. Okay? He counter punches. How deluded do you need to be? Oh, well, Mayweather's not a fighter. Then what the fuck is he? If boxing ain't fighting, what is it? Stop the bullshit. Pacquiao lost to Mayweather. So what? If a loss ain't such a big deal, then that loss is not a big deal. And he didn't lose. If you think about it, he got paid a ton of money. He got the biggest payday of his whole entire life. So he never lose. Well, it destroyed the morale of the people of the Philippines. Come on, man. Y'all know y'all shouldn't worship idols. No man should be your idol. He should be your inspiration. And let me tell you what's inspiring. It's inspiring that Pacquiao got that Mayweather fight. He landed it after all those years of propaganda and stuff. He landed the Mayweather fight. He got into the Mayweather sweepstakes and he made big money. Some of that money blessing you guys right now. So I don't understand the problem. The problem is that some people, they was clowning everybody. They was trying to say everything negative that's possible about Mayweather. And they thought Pacquiao was going to come in and seal the deal by beating his ass out of there. And it didn't work. And so they salty because they channel all their hate towards one fighter. And the sport of boxing for them is about hating Mayweather. And so they spend their days and nights hating on the guy and circulating stuff about him, not understanding they're not doing anything positive for the sport. Because as Mayweather said, I am boxing. He really is, in some respects, the sport. And it epitomizes the beauty of the sport. Hit and not get hit. All right? I'm not saying he's a be-all and end-all. I'm not saying he's unbeatable. I'm not saying none of that. But I'm saying if you want to see somebody who exhibited hit and not get hit, the sweet science, he was one of them. He's not the only one, but he was one of them. And he's a damn fine example for you and your kids to pattern yourself after, not patent his style per se, or his actual Philly shell, which is what a lot of you guys just, I don't know why you casuals are like that, but it's not about the Philly shell. It's about the approach to it. Defense first. Learn your fundamentals. You don't need to be as fancy as he is. He's been doing it since a kid. You just go for your defense. Make sure your defense is tight. Hit everything you do. That's all it's about. And do your thing. Right? You don't have to copy him to the core. And you don't need to be like a parrot imitating everything he says. He says a lot of inaccurate stuff. Okay? He never beat 23 world champions. Tony Pep was not a world champion. Okay? Emmanuel Burton wasn't a world champion. Okay? Minor world champion, but he wasn't a world champion. And now Flomo was arguing with me about this. And I was like, oh my God. Okay? And Angel Manfredi was not a major world champion. Okay? So stop including them guys in the list of world champions. He only beat 22 world champions. Not 24. Not 23. Stop it. Okay? And I don't consider a secondary world championship title as a world champion. Okay? When we talk world champions, we're not trying to ticky-tack. We need to tell the truth, people. We need to tell the truth. As far as I know, Pacquiao has beaten 20 world champions. He's faced 26 world champions. Julio Cesar Chavez has faced, yes. Julio Cesar Chavez has faced 30, I think it's 30, 35 or 30, 33 or 34 world champions, I think. Beat 18 of them. Okay? So, I'm saying this not to disrespect anybody, but you need to get your facts right, people. And you want to be as objective as possible. You may like a boxer or you may like other boxers or whatever, but you don't twist information to accommodate your boxer. All right. All right, let's talk about fundamentals of boxing. I said I was going to do that because we talk why I say people why do people hate Floyd Mayweather? It's because he has the fundamentals of boxing down pack. And we're going to just talk about the fundamentals of boxing because I want you guys to box. I want you guys to go out there and box. I want you guys to go out there and box. I want you to box. I don't want to stop with all the talking, man. We need to box. That's what we need to do. So let me show you guys some of the fundamentals of boxing. How am I going to do that? So, what is the very first fundamental of boxing? Say it with me. Protect yourself at all times. Not sometimes. Not when the bell rings. All times. Once you're inside that square circle, you must be aware of your environment at all times. When you step out, the square circle is totally different. So that means before the fight happens, when you're standing with the other opponent, with the referee, if you are getting the results read and somebody's going to get their hand raised, protect yourself at all times. Only when you step out of that square circle, we could say, all right, and even then you should be aware of your environment. Okay? You never know, somebody in the crowd might want to hit you or something. You never know. So watch out for that. Somebody might want to stab you or something, right? You must be aware of your surroundings. And you must be able to protect yourself at all, not sometimes, all times. Once you're in that square circle, it should be a different environment. And you must be aware of your environment and ready to protect yourself at all times. Okay? At all times. I've seen at the end of the fight, some boxers have poor showmanship and they attack other boxers without gloves on. I've seen that. So if you see a boxer coming at you, you must be able to protect yourself at all times. Okay, so that's the first rule, which means after you've learned your stance and after you've learned how to move, the second fundamental of boxing is hands up. Hands up. That's the fundamental of boxing. We start with defense. After we get our stance, after we get our feet in position, hands up. You want to have a long career in boxing? You want to keep your hands up. There are two reasons why. First one is defensive. You can block punches, parry punches, catch punches, right? So hands up. The second reason is an offensive reason. Shooting a shot with your hands up, you can get to your point faster and quicker with your hands up than your hands down. So you can hit your opponent much quicker and you can get better speed, especially if you're a slow fighter, by shooting straight shots to your target. I'll give you a perfect example. Winky Wright versus Shane Mosley. Mosley is probably quicker than Winky Wright. But because Mosley arcs a lot of his punches, Winky Wright shoots his shots very straight, especially his jab, and his hands are up, he gets to Shane Mosley faster than Shane Mosley would get to him. Second example, Zab Judah versus Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather kept his hands up when he was walking to Zab Judah because Zab Judah was just quicker than him, quicker and faster than him. So he needed to keep his hands up to, one, protect his face. Wasn't using the Philly shell, if you notice. He was protecting his face, protecting his body with his hands up, and he was shooting shots from that position. Okay? Third fundamental of boxing. Know how to throw the jab. That is going to be throwing your lead hand. Before you can throw a hook, before you can throw a right hand, or left hand, if you're southpaw, before you can throw any punch, we start off with just throwing the jab. Then you must step and throw the jab. You must be able to pivot and throw the jab. You must be able to change levels and throw the jab. You must be able to fight going backwards and throwing the jab. You can throw the jab going backwards to keep a guy at bay. You can throw the jab going backwards to actually pop a guy up so that you can counter him with a right, or in this case would be the left hand. All right. There are different reasons you go backwards using the jab. All right. All right. So that's the other fundamental of boxing. And we just one hand, just using the jab. Just that's all. That's all we're doing for 3, 4, 5 weeks. Just throwing the jab. That's it. Nothing else. No left hand, no power hand, none of that. You're just moving around throwing the jab. Okay? In different situations. And if you have a good trainer, you can do some mitt work and let him, and then you can do body work with the jab. So you can just be shooting the jab to the body. As a guy, if he has the body armor on, he can just walk you down and you just popping the jab hard. Right? Sometimes you tap. Now, to get some rhythm, sometimes you will want to throw some other punches with it and then pop the jab. But for now, you just got one hand. And you must be able to handle any situation with just that one hand. You got to get versatile with the jab. We got to work the jab. We're going to move around the ring and pop the jab. Okay? And you're going to learn to throw the jab at different speeds, different rhythms. You're going to learn how to throw the jab up close, how to throw the jab when you're got some good distance between you, because there's a way to throw a short jab. All right, so there's a short jab. Okay, I can't. Okay. I wish I could show you, but I can't show you. So I have to hold the camera because the phone, it died on me. But there's a way to throw a short jab and there's a way to throw a long jab. So there are different kinds of jabs. And then you have to work on the power of your jab. You must be able to put some really good power behind your jab. So there's all of those things. There's a lot of intricacies in boxing. I'm just going through a little bit of intricacies with you guys so you understand to perfect the jab takes a lot of work. You can step in with the jab, all right? Or you can stay where you are, step to the guy, and not step to the guy, but slide in with the jab and slide back out. You can, without stepping, use the lead foot and move the lead foot forward with the jab, change levels, land the jab, and then slide back. Or slide back out off an angle, as would be the case. I wouldn't suggest sliding straight back. So, you know, there's all those things. You must, when we talk about the jab, we're talking about not just the jab, but how you move your body with the jab, the angles that you have with the jab. So there's all of that work you got to put in when you're throwing the jab. It's not just throwing the jab. It's not just, they say, oh, he needed to throw the jab. Bruh, it's a whole lot more than just throwing the jab, okay? So having said all of that, once you've got the jab somewhat down pat, now you want to add your power hand to the jab. That's called the 1-2. It's fundamentals of boxing. But whenever you're throwing the jab, make sure you bring your hands back up to your chin. Your chin needs to be protected. Your temple needs to be protected. There are two parts on your body where guys target on your head. It's the temple area, and there's the temple area, the back of the head behind the ear, and then there's the chin. Now, some people, they get disrupted when they get hit on the top of the head as well. Okay, so you have to know what it is with you and how. So you may want to put those muffs up to protect just about everywhere, right? So anyway, but the point is, those are the points at which you are targeted. Okay, they may hit you somewhere else. They may hit you in your eye. They may hit you in the top of the forehead. They may hit you in your nose, but you will get hit in your nose. If you're in boxing, you're going to get hit on your nose. You're going to get hit on your mouth, okay? That's just what it is. You're going to get a busted mouth. You're going to get a busted nose. You're going to have to learn to deal with that. Learn how to breathe when you get a busted nose or busted mouth. But having said all of that, you need to protect. So you bring the hands back to protect the chin. Or if you want, you can bring them even further up so you can protect with the gloves there to protect the temple area. One of the things you need to understand when you're blocking punches is you want to take some of the steam off the punch, which means you want to keep your hands at an angle where you can knock the punch down. Okay? It's almost like you want to parry it down. So when you watch at most boxers, and even how the gloves are made, pity. I really can't show you nothing, but the gloves look like this. So you can easily, if you're here, you can actually knock down a punch that's coming at you. It's parry it down, right? You can also parry off a punch this way. But you want to be able to parry it off and still protect keep the phone by the phone booth. So it's a parry off. It's just a slight movement like this to parry, knock it that way, or knock it down. Okay, and you'll be off to an angle, so it'll be more like this. Your body's always going to be you. You don't stand straight on. You always stand at an angle with your chin protected. Okay. So anyway, the other fundamental of boxing I want to talk about, but I have not been able to talk in detail about the feet, but I'm going into detail so that you guys will actually box. The other fundamental that you want to look at is after you throw your power hand after your jab, you want to make sure you get your hands back as quickly as possible. But there's something else that guys don't really talk too much about. And that is being able to parry or catch a jab and counter. You can parry the jab off and counter over the jab, or you can catch the jab and counter with the next hand. So if I catch the jab here, I can shoot my jab back at you. So I catch the jab here, protect my face by catching the jab and slap it down like this. But I can also keep it here just in case you throw a hook. I can come back here, right? You slap the jab down, or you parry it off this way. Right, you parry him off. You're off an angle, so it will parry off this way, and slap it down that way. You parry off, and you counter with the next hand, okay? Or you parry off, and you counter over it. You can't see it. Parry, counter over it, right? Anyways, so you want to be able to have your hands in a position where you could do that, and you want to get any punch you throw, you want to get back in position as quickly as possible. So you not only want to hit the guy with the punch, but you want to get the hands back. Some fighters, they make the mistake of not getting their hands back to hold the phone booth, to protect here, because it's the temple area and the ear area that you have to protect. So there's all these things you gotta put in perspective. So all of that when we throw in the jab, okay? You must have your defense. Your stance, again, that's a whole other story. I'm not gonna talk about that right now. But the important thing is if you got the stance, you got the basic steps. You know how to move forwards, backwards, to the side, then and pivot. You need to know how to move forwards, backwards, to the side. Then you add the jab to it. That's the fundamentals of boxing. And after you add the jab, then you add the power hand. But always remember to get those hands back. So we're not going to talk about all the slipping and all of that yet. Even though you should be in a stance where you kind of off center at all times. And so if you're off center at all times, it's going to be easy to just slip. Slipping a jab, for example, would be just to lean a little bit more and to drop. Squat a little bit and lean a little bit, and you get the shot passing you. And if you want to slip the other way, you can swivel, or as we say, roll under and swivel to the next direction. Your body will be slightly off to one side, and that will allow the right hand to go by. All right? So, it's simple things. Knowing how to move in the ring. By the time you've kind of sort of worked the jab a couple times and moved around the ring, working the jab a couple times, and change up your rhythm a little bit in your movements around the ring, you want to really start moving around the ring in pivots. So you want to pivot and move around the ring. You don't really want to bounce and move around the ring. You can do a little shuffles if you want. Or you can do a little walk it out, a circle, walking out. I wish I could show you all of these things so you can see how easy it is, and that now it's just about the particulars of it. But you want to be able to move around the ring. Your feet are very important in boxing. The feet determine the position in which you are and the angle at which you are. And you're not at the elite level, so you don't even have to worry about specific angles and all of that. You just want to kind of get a feel of it, move around the ring, know how to move around the ring. Once you know how to move around the ring, somebody who's fighting and lunging at you, you know how to handle them very easily, in close and otherwise, right? Somebody who wings punches, if you have a good jab, you can knock them out with just the jab. So I'm trying to help you understand that it's not as difficult as it sounds, and depending on the level of competition you face, let's say the guy's debuting like you are, you might be able to beat that guy, right? I'm not guaranteeing that you win your first fight or even your second or third, but I'm saying you might be able to beat the guy because his fundamentals might not be there. But if you have the fundamentals and he don't have the fundamentals, you beat him. Or he doesn't have all the fundamentals, right? So the key to the fundamentals is hands up, learn how to throw the jab with movement, and then you add your power hand. We're not going to deal with no hooks yet. We're just doing the 1-2. You know, we throwing the power hand by itself at times, and then putting it together, 1-2, and making sure you get back in position. Make sure that you can parry your shot. If they're doing mitt work, or if you're dealing with somebody else, that you ask them to throw a right hand or a left hand at you, so you can learn to slip it. Or some guys have the little broomstick thing where they can just throw it, so sort of imitate the angle at which a right hand might be coming or a jab might be coming, so you can slip. So you can practice that. You can practice rolling under the hook, right? So these are the things that you want to do, and you want to be moving when you're doing them, not just you want to. When you're doing mitt work, most guys do mitt work, and the guy's not moving their feet. They're just shifting their weight from right to left. That's not good enough. You need to move. So the guy who's doing mitt work with you, just like the guy with the body armor, he needs to be moving you, trying to push you back. At times, also have you push them back, and try to counter you and stuff like that. And it doesn't have to be elaborate mitt work like what they have there, but just to get the fundamentals in. So it's all about the jab. It's all about the right hand or the left hand, as is the case. It's all about your movement. It's all about blocking punches. It's not necessarily mitt work like what Floyd Mayweather and Roger Mayweather do, but it may be mitt work like how Roger Mayweather might do with the kids, how you would slap the little kids, or Jeff Mayweather, how you slap your high guard to make sure you're covering everything, because you need to cover everything because the guy can counter you. So you must be able to have some sort of counter for their counter, meaning defensively or offensively wise. So when they come to counter you, you have something in place, whether it's blocking the punch, whether it's parrying the punch, whether it's catching the punch, whether it's slipping the punch, whether it's rolling under the punch. You must have something for it. And if you have to, you can roll and counter. You can catch and counter, parry and counter. You understand what I'm saying? You can do all these counters with the jab. It doesn't have to be with your power hand. Okay? You can block and counter. So think about what I'm saying, and you'll begin to understand what I'm saying as you get some sort of experience moving around the ring using pivot work. Because the pivot work, I'm gonna tell you, guys, straight up, to me, the superior footwork is always pivot work. It was never bouncing. Bouncing to me consumes a lot of energy, first of all, and then you're covering a lot of ground. And why? When you really want to work angles. Boxing's all about angles. So why would I want to cover all this ground when I could just use a proper angle and approach from that angle? You know what I'm saying? So to me, boxing is a sport where, and I think that's what I like about Mayweather. He makes you miss, and he's just right there to counter you. He's not moving unnecessarily far away from you. And he's always using pivots. He's always circling. If you notice, he's always cutting an angle. So I always think that pivot work is really the key to boxing. And I remember I had said that a couple of times, and I was looking at Errol Spence. I said, man, this kid's pivot work, man, it's on a whole other level. And the way how he even drops, he changes levels and pivots is just beautiful. And I remember Floyd saying, pivot work is so important in boxing afterwards. And I was like, there you go. I wasn't wrong. And it wasn't something I'd heard in the news, but I remember listening to several fighters, and they were talking about, I remember Timothy Bradley particularly talking about getting a particular angle of approach when he was going to deal with Marquez. And he was making sure that he had his ankles down packed. So I remember that when he was with Joel Diaz. I remember him especially talking about that. And I said, yeah, that's right. Boxing's about angles. So, if I was to say anything about the fundamentals of boxing, I think I covered everything, because that's essentially the fundamentals of boxing. The fundamentals of boxing have to do with your jab, has to do with how you move, has to do with blocking punches, catching punches, parrying punches, right? It has to do with protecting your body and your head. Somebody's calling me. Boxing is a very important sport. I'm wrap it up right here. I told you guys it's about Drake and his Padwork, and then we talked about the hate that Floyd Mayweather gets, and then we talked about the fundamentals of boxing. And Mayweather obviously is a perfect example of the fundamentals of boxing, but I tell people, and I'm gonna tell you again, don't use his stance. Don't start off boxing trying to do the shell, unless you have a really good old school trainer who can teach you very well about that, and then see if you can even you have the reflexes to even do it. Oscar De La Hoya has difficulty doing the shell because that's just not a style for him. And you must know what styles for you. So I would tell any fighter starting off so late in life, if you're, you're in your 20s already or you're in your teens, start off with the high guard defense. That's the best defense because you're gonna block something. Protect your chin, protect your temple. You protect behind your ear. That's the best defense for you right now. You'll still be doing everything that Floyd's doing, but just in a sort of slightly different way. It's all about the lead hand anyway. And if anything, you could try to use the shell with time and practice. But as of now, you will roll certain punches. There are certain punches you will roll with the shoulder. You will just naturally do it, and it will just come. But for the most part, use the high guard defense. That's the best way to go for now. With respect to fighters who have good reflexes, quick twitch muscles, and all of that, the shell might be more appropriate for you. Don't forget to keep your chin tucked, though. Don't fight with your chin up in the air. And that's a very important thing, chin down. Okay, hands up, chin down. Chin down, hands up. Don't forget that. But for the most part, it's all about making sure that you have a proper defense and then you mount offense in a very constructive, proper way. You try to do everything off the jab, and as you get better, you will talk about feinting. But we're not going to talk about feinting right now because if you haven't perfected the jab, or got sort of proficient with the jab, then throwing feints doesn't make no sense because you're going to try. The first thing you're going to try and do is feint the jab, right? That's going to be your major tool for the beginning. For beginners, for people like myself, it's all about the jab. It doesn't matter what stance you're in. It's all about the jab. It's your jab in hand that matters. It's all about jabbing. All right. So that's the fundamentals of boxing. It's the jab. It's your footwork and how you move. It's about blocking punches, catching, parrying, rolling under, slipping punches. You're going to be fighting off your jab. You're going to learn how to move around the ring, throwing that jab. You want to check. You want to throw that jab with different strengths and powers. You want to throw that jab up close. You want to be able to throw that jab when your opponent is a bit of a distance away, approaching your opponent. You want to know how to throw that jab as a counter. So there's a lot to just dealing with that one punch, and then off of that jab and range finding and all of that, off of that jab, you're going to throw the right hand. So you're going to do the 1-2. That's it. We're not going to do hooks. We're not going to do all that extravagant stuff. That's going to come after. But the fundamentals is the jab, right hand, setup. And there's so many different ways to throw the jab and the right hand. You can throw the jab in the left hand, as in the case with southpaw like myself. You can sweep the left hand off of the jab. You can sort of thrust the left hand or right hand off of the jab. That means you could do a second jab almost with the right hand. You just have to square up a little bit to do that. So there's several different things you can do. Sweep the right hand. You can throw a sort of almost a hook right hand. So there's different ways to throw the right hand. You can throw the right cross off of the jab. You can throw right hand off the jab. You can throw a rising right hand off the jab. You can throw a right hand to the body off the jab. You can try a sweeping right hand to the liver. In my case, in your case, it would be to the spleen off the jab. So there's several different things you can do off the jab. Now remember, you don't only have to do things off the jab, but for now, because you are a fundamental, you're just dealing with boxing basics. All we're dealing with is the jab and the right hand. You're going to add the left hook to it, jab, right hand, left hook over time. But we're gonna deal with that at another time. Right now, jab, right hand, left hook is not good enough. You want to be proficient in just the jab, right hand, and use that in every single fight you have, and get proficient at that. And then you're going to toss in the left hook a little later down the road. But once you got a jab and a right hand, that's good enough to make you, with proper defense, that's good enough to have you win quite a lot of fights just off of a jab and a right hand. Especially if other people don't have the fundamentals, just the jab and the right hand is enough. But as you move along, you want to add the left hook to the equation, and then so many other variations. There's the uppercuts that you want to add, and then you want to use different kinds of jabs, spear jabs, and all of that. Spear jabs, power jabs, up jabs, down jabs, and so on. All right, and then you might want to do variations of the right hand. So there's the power right hand, which is just straight right hand. But then there's the straight right hand where you cock it, just like how you would cock a power jab, and you power it down. Okay, you got the right hand that kind of looks more like an uppercut. You sweep it. Okay, then you have the right hook, of course, and several other things. So there's a lot to boxing, all right? So I'm gonna catch you guys later though, but that's the fundamentals. I'll repeat it again. After you get your stance in order, and after you're able to move around the ring, the next thing is defense, which is you must put your hands up, chin down. Again, all defensive maneuvers, okay? You want to have your defense in order before you mount your offense at all times. And after you mount your offense, you want to have your defense. And after you throw, say, a jab, right hand, you want to finish it off with the jab. You want to finish off all your combinations and all your offense with a jab. Okay? And so you start with the jab and you end with the jab at all times. Okay? These are the fundamentals of boxing. Like I said before, Sugar Ray Robinson had the fundamentals of boxing. Sugar Ray Leonard had the fundamentals of boxing. You look at Pernell Whitaker had the fundamentals of boxing, right? Oscar De La Hoya had the fundamentals of boxing. So the fundamentals of boxing are very important for you to be able to make it in this sport. Roy Jones Jr. didn't always use the fundamentals of boxing. He didn't always start off with the jab, but he could jab, and he could jab very well. Instead, he did a variation where he would use the lead hand, and he did variations of lead hand stuff. So you do the right hand lead, he'd do the lead left hook, he'd do sweeping right hands and check hooks. Okay, so he led with different tools. And that leads to, you must understand what the lead foot does with the lead hand. And you must understand how you balance yourself to be able to throw the lead hand, whether it's the right hand or the left hand, so with the lead foot. All right, so that's the understanding behind it. And sometimes he would switch feet to become the lead foot, and therefore switch stances. So, it's all of that. And that's advanced stuff. That's not for you and me right now. That's something we can admire. We could even try out. But that's not something that we should be doing in the ring in real competition. All right? Keep it to the fundamentals first. And then from there, you can go ahead and do other things. So I hope that you guys will be inspired to get off your ass and go train and go into competition, whether it's amateur competition or pro competition. I really don't care. Just get yourself into competition and get into a fight and actually Just use the fundamentals. It's just about the fundamentals. Stand behind them, have confidence in them, work them, get more acquainted with them. You start sparring people so you can perfect them. Sometimes you're gonna encounter situations where it just doesn't work. Stick with it. Okay? Stick with it. And if you're persistent and you stick with it, you're going to be ready for competition. And when you're ready for competition, you're going to actually do better than you think you would do. And that's all that matters. I want you to have an appreciation for the sport of boxing. I don't care if you have appreciation for the fighters, but please have respect for this. Out of respect for the sport, you guys are going to be less likely to just tear down fighters. Okay? When I say certain things about fighters and I say this fighter might beat this fighter or whatever, please do understand I have a healthy respect for these fighters. All of them. They have done something I've never done in my life. So I have a healthy respect for them. I'm not going to sit down like an armchair expert and talk rubbish about them. Right? But when I talk analytically. Like I'm saying, this fighter, he didn't really have this aspect of his game. So because I can't take that aspect of the game to apply to myself. At least I don't see it where I can use it for me. So if somebody can enlighten me, hey, this fighter does have that aspect of the game and you just didn't see that, then please educate me on it. But for the most part, I look at different fighters and I look at what parts of their game I could take into my arsenal and what I could use, even though I'm nowhere near. Let me make this abundantly clear. I try out things, but I'm nowhere near that level where I should be doing those things. You understand what I'm saying? You have to understand what the levels to the sport of boxing. So I just do the fundamentals. I'm not even trying to, right? I just do the basics. But at the same time, I do try out things, and you should try out things too. You should try out things you see on TV. Try them out. Try them out. Don't just and when you try them out, then that's when you get a better understanding of them, so you can actually talk about them, which makes sense. I remember Joe Habib back in the day. I was saying, hey, Floyd circles to the power hand of an opponent. And Joe Habib is trying to educate me on stuff, right? So he's like, no, you don't do that. You circle to the weak side. Floyd didn't do that. Floyd would never do that. And I'm like, well, just look at the fight, bro. He circles to the power hand of a fighter. And he was like, no, that doesn't happen. And I'm like, dude, he does. You could tell that Joe never fought a southpaw. And if he has, he only knows conventional wisdom. But what's important is Joe knows the fundamentals. So Joe Habib, what I give him credit for is the fundamentals of boxing teaches you to circle away from the danger hand of your opponent. Now, with Floyd and Teofimo Lopez and Yordenis Ugas, those fighters circled to the power hand of Manny Pacquiao, keeping a healthy distance away from Pacquiao's range so that he wouldn't just be able to close the distance and hit them. It wasn't just fast twitch muscles, but it was also that they were keeping a certain range as they're circling him. Shane Mosley tried to do that against Winky Wright, and he got tagged up because he wasn't staying a healthy distance away. But Felix Trinidad did that against who was it? I saw him circling a guy. I watched the fight. I can't remember who it was though. It was the southpaw. Oh, Hector Camacho. Yes, Felix Trinidad had faced Hector Camacho, and he was circling Hector Camacho to Hector Camacho's power hand, right? And so, watching fights also, you begin to identify the fundamentals of boxing. You can see how the guy's using his jab, how he's moving with his jab. You can also watch at how he uses his power hand. And these things you can note in your little library and try out as you're also throwing your jab and so on. You can add a little spice and funk to your stuff. But in the beginning, you're just trying to learn it. So you're trying to learn how to move and pop that jab, going forwards, backwards, to the side, circling the ring, doing tight angles, whether it's 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, popping the jab. So you want to be able to also have power when you pop the jab, and that's that takes some work, because it's not just popping the jab, it's not just throwing a punch, it's throwing a punch with sufficient power so that your opponent would take notice. It's how you time your punch and all of these other things. So I hope that this just kind of gives you guys a little respect for the sport, as well as I hope that you guys will really be encouraged to get off of your seat of your pants and actually go out there and box. Really, I'm telling you guys, you will not regret it. It will be one of the best days of your life if you do the right things and if you proceed in the right manner. You have to be careful how you proceed to do things, but proceed in the right manner. And if you do things in the right manner, and if you can get a proper trainer or coach and pay that trainer properly and that coach to teach you as well these fundamentals, just these fundamental things. See how simple it's really simple things. It's simple things, but it's to get your body used to those simple things, used to that movement, right? Used to it, because it's gonna be, at first it's gonna be a little bit strange to you, especially if your coach or trainer is telling you what to do, how to move around and everything. It's gonna be a little bit strange to some of you. Some of you, it's gonna come like second nature, and some of you are gonna learn very, very slowly. And but you need to get those things correct. You need to have your hands up. You're going to feel very tired at some times and you want to drop your hands. Don't drop your hands. Hands up. You're going to learn so much. You're going to learn and you're going to appreciate, and it's going to give you so much discipline. And it's a great sport. It's a great sport. So that's what I got to say for now. And I hope you guys have a healthy appreciation of boxing. I'm going to catch you guys later on What You Need. Peace. Don't forget, you can also subscribe, you can share, and you can donate by Western Union MoneyGram. I'm going to catch you guys later.